And at 10, Nightmare Funtime Freddy. Well, what did you expect? Of course, a nightmare version of Funtime Freddy is going to be on this list. It's basically like a requirement for any animatronic list, because Funtime Freddy is probably one of the creepiest and weirdest versions of them all. Nightmare Funtime Freddy is what you'd guess, in essence a recolored Nightmare Fredbear, actually. Instead of Nightmare Freddy, which I guess is understandable, but the real gem comes from when they make the Nightmare version look like the classic, like plastic toy look that the original Funtimes have. Because I don't know why, but for some reason the Nightmare aesthetic with like the toy look of the Funtimes just makes it absolutely horrifying from both fronts. At this point, I never want toys again, but I'm going to buy various pop figures. I also am going to have nightmares about this version eating other Nightmare animatronics. Like, I think he was doing it to save me, like a Glam Rock Freddy situation, but like still, okay, he could snatch me up without a fight. He could rip me in two. Nightmare Funtime Freddy, that's not where your teeth go. And at 9, Nightmare Baby. Originating in the fan game Baby's Nightmare Circus, I believe, or just being the basis for it, Nightmare Baby is pretty damn spooky. Being the likely originator for the stomach mouth present on the other Nightmare animatronics already made the thought of her as a nightmare terrifying, but throw in the classic Nightmare rundown aesthetic again despite being a plastic casing, like with Nightmare Funtime Freddy, and the countless sharp teeth in the animatronic mouth, this thing will make you see stars. Oh, and adding the Nightmare look to animatronics that can already move their face was bad enough, but thinking about it or actually seeing their face move and like reveal a Nightmare endoskeleton is even worse. And at 8, Nightmare Toy Chica. Nightmare Toy Chica is honestly what you'd expect from a Nightmare version of your favorite chicken robot. Not Robot Chicken, Chicken Robot. All the glory of Toy Chica with the horror of a nightmare, the countless sharp teeth, the stomach mouth, torn body even though they're a toy in plastic so it doesn't really make any sense, it should just be cracked. Exposed endoskeleton, you name it, she's got it. She's got it going on. And those without a beak are even worse than you'd expect. You'd expect that without the beak there would be less teeth, but no. In fact, they have the same amount of teeth and they're just ready to bite your head off. If anyone was going to have caused the bite of 87, it would be Nightmare Toy Chica, and not just because of the Ultimate Custom Night line, okay? That's a can of worms that we've already covered in multiple videos. And at 7, the BOA. The BOA is basically like another form of Mangle, but this time hailing from the Dormitibus universe. I say this is Mangle-like because of the multiple heads and exposed endoskeletons connecting them all. The 2018 updated version is far more hectic than the original as well, but it just seems kinda smaller. I don't know why, but animatronics that can kill me by biting my ankles off just put me off in a different way when compared to something like Foxy or Dreadbear who could crush me with a snap. Like the little Freddys and the plush trap and like the plush babies, no. No, 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 no. And this thing doesn't make it any better, considering how it has 5 heads. The head of Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Mangle, Balloon Boy, and Toy Chica. Mommy, why? But it also has the hook from Foxy just chilling, ready to tear your face off and like then lay eggs inside your brain. I don't know, okay? The story for Dormitibus is really messed up and I don't really quite understand it all. So I'm not sure what this thing is really going to do. And don't worry, this isn't the only Dormitibus animatronic on this list. And at 6, Reaper Balloon Boy. Reaper Balloon Boy looks terrifying in both Final Nights 3 and 4, the only games in which he makes an appearance. Luckily. But as I said with Reaper Mangle, Final Nights 4 is where the creep factor really gets dialed up to 12. His face is melting and hell, even his balloon is showing endoskeleton, which totally blows my mind. And the propellers on his hats are just going nuts. The right hand of Doom got run over by a truck and his left hand looks like me trying to use chopsticks. But like at least you can tell that it's still Balloon Boy, despite messed up attributes. I can't help but get weirded out by this thing. Like I swear as I was writing this I had the picture up next to me. I saw him move towards me and then back away as I moved my eyes back, okay? It was a horrifying experience and I really need to make sure that I'm doing okay because I swear he tilted his head now. Like, I get that his head is tilted to the right, but like come on. And anytime I refer to direction, I mean from their point of view, okay? Because I learned my lesson with Bonnie. Halfway through into number 5, Scrap Puppet. I don't know why, but every version of the puppet intended to be scary just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't have puppophobia, but It does. First, the Reaper puppet, which I talked about in the first scariest FNAF animatronics list years ago, and honestly, it was the inspiration behind this video. And then the Havoc puppet from another video. And now we have the Scrap puppet. This was only a concept in fan art and doesn't actually appear in any fan game, but this wasn't the criteria, okay? This isn't top 10 scary FNAF fan animatronics that appear in games. No, it's fan animatronics. It's fine. Although that is a good idea. No, it's just fan animatronics. And while some people may not be able to make a game for their creations, they can still draw them and give me nightmares for all of eternity. The particular image that I found has just like what looks like the beginning of a Scrap puppet jump scare when you're salvaging them in FNAF 6, but obviously it isn't the actual game because the puppet was captured by Lefty. But this still sets me on edge with the tentacles coming off of it and like that creepy smile. Oh my god. In at 4, Ignited Foxy. Ignited Foxy is similar to normal Foxy, just with only a pelvis, thighs, a forearm, and a head. Relatable. Ignited Foxy comes from the joy of creation, the same as Ignited Chica, but Foxy is even worse. Normal Foxy already looks pretty torn up, considering how he's a pirate and all that, but the Ignited version is missing an ear and most of his flesh. Can I call it flesh? Should I be calling it flesh? I guess it's missing most of its shell casing. Both lower leg sections, his upper arm, his lower right arm, as well as his feet and chest are also missing, but the hook's still there. He's gotta have the hook. Arrgh. He has to keep the hook. How else is he gonna make those 1,000-degree hook videos where he like puts it through like flowering foam and then carves your eye out? His eyes glow white, and honestly, I don't know if you'll love this Foxy as much as you'll love the normal Foxy after seeing this, because it's terrifying, like holy hell. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare Springtrap. Nightmare Springtrap is certainly a sight. Not for sore eyes though, no. If anything, this is going to make your eyes sore. However, every iteration of Nightmare Springtrap basically does the same thing. He gets the classic nightmare teeth, but the rest of him remains largely the same. Maybe he gets a slight change to his ears or his skull shape, but other than that, Nightmare Springtrap is mostly just regular Springtrap. The majority of people believe that Springtrap is already scary, and he already has most of the appearance of a nightmare animatronic, being one of the most destroyed characters in the games, and especially in FNAF 3. One version I saw had like eyes covering all of him, but for the most part he looked either Springtrap or just like a larger fetch, but still terrifying. Penultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Glamrocks. Nightmare animatronics are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic. That's why there's so many fan-made versions, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, like I said before, you can really head anywhere. Same with Scrap versions, especially with Scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, but there's a stark contrast between these two different versions. They seem to just have the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on, and it's not even just because they look like plastic toy animatronics. Like, it's like this is like the step up from the nightmare toys. Like, I don't know what it is about these characters specifically. It makes me think some kind of way. Maybe it's because that Glamrock Chica is my bae, and now she's just horrifying even more, but again, that's kind of a kink. Like, I don't get it. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, and their Nightmare Glamrock version is scarier than their normal Nightmare version. I know that Bonnie got his own number, I wanted to reiterate, okay? Stay away from these if you can, and the reason these are higher is because it's a whole group of them. And finally, in at number 1, Hellmare. This was another animatronic that was recommended to me, this time in the comments of part 1 of alternate fan versions of Fredbear, and I can see why. The Hellmare version of Nightmare Fredbear is probably the absolute single most horrific FNAF-oriented thing I have ever seen. Like, I'm going to have to make a whole list about the Hellmare animatronics or something, because this is the absolute craziest shit that I have ever seen. How did I not know about these before? Hellmare Fredbear can only be described as a true nightmarish abomination from hell, and so the name is accurate. This thing had not one, not 2, but 3 separate mouths, 2 heads, but not only does it have 2 heads, those heads are reversed from one another, so the head on top and the one on the bottom, they spin 180 degrees, and you either get Nightmare or you get Nightmare Fredbear. Yeah, this dude is both animatronics combined. and I didn't even see that at first. Once I noticed it, I'll admit, I might have peed my pants a little bit, okay? Come on, 2 heads, 2 sets of 4-fingered hands, and half of these parts being Nightmare, and half of them being Nightmare Fredbear. Look, I'm not usually actually scared when it comes to these things. I play it up for the camera and for entertainment, and that's why I'm so, like, light and fluffy on camera. Like, yes, they're scary, but I'm not actually worrying about them. I'm not playing this up. This is probably going to actually give me nightmares. Like, what kind of hell-raising, sadistic motherfucker came up with this idea? And at 10, Reaper Balloon Boy. Reaper Balloon Boy was introduced in Final Nights 3 Nightmares Awoken before being brought back in Final Nights 4 Fates Entwined. However, his Final Nights 4 appearance is much worse, so we'll be focusing on that one for this number. Reaper Balloon Boy's body appears to be immense for a small animatronic. He has long, extending arms with blue and red striped sleeves, and has protruding fingers at the ends of his hands. I mean, like, of course they're protruding, but like, it's weird. He also has many red scratches all over his body, possibly resembling human cuts. In Final Nights 4, however, his appearance becomes more disfigured and rough, with his face and fingers being stretched out even more and sporting multiple sharp-looking blades on his propeller cap. Reaper Balloon Boy appears in Investigation 4 in Final Nights 4, and he, along with the other Reaper animatronics, try to attack Max Donovan in the hospital bedroom. If the player hears him laugh, they must go up and shine a light on him with the flashlight to repel him. The weirdest thing about this animatronic, though, is that his museum description reads, quote, "not related to Danny DeVito." And at 9, Motorcycle Ballora. This is on the list because it's weird, okay? Look, it's not scary, but it is definitely weirder than a lot of things that we've seen here. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it probably should have been higher. Someone turned Ballora into a motorcycle though, and I don't know why. Look, I'm all for whatever you're into, okay? No judgment zone here, as long as it's legal and doesn't put anyone in danger. But this obsession with riding Ballora, okay, at this point, it's too much. It puts my mental stability in danger, and honestly, that's already dancing on the fence, so even like the slightest push will send me spiraling towards even more FNAF madness. Like, why? Why did you do this? What compelled you to make this character? And what the hell is her back wheel made of? And at 8, Steampunk Freddy. No doubt inspired by the steampunk event for FNAF AR, Steampunk Freddy is one of the tamer variants on this list. And while changing the character to be steel and gold may do the trick, the different interpretations are what make this version weird enough for this list. Particularly the Steampunk Titan Funtime Freddy created by Hero Golem on DeviantArt. This thing looks like a beast and would honestly make me throw my pants at it. I don't know, okay, look, they're more so weird rather than scary, however, making their original appearance in the Fan Alternates of Funtime Freddy list, even if they aren't gold and are instead purple. I have no doubt that this thing would still crush me in a dark alley. I'm too scared to say this thing that isn't steampunk because there's no copper. It doesn't look steampunk, but it also is steampunk, okay? If I say that he's not steampunk, as soon as I step off screen, he's gonna snap my neck. And this is only number 8. This is already weird, okay? Just wait until you see the others. This is gonna be a wild list, so stick around. Speaking of sticking around, why don't you do us both a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us out and helps the channel grow. And at 7, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie. Yet another set of animatronics without any Bonnie representation. The Security Breach Glamrock animatronics, from what we've seen in the trailers so far, don't have a Glamrock Bonnie. He really only appears as the mascot of bowling. However, fans here yet again made Glamrock versions of Bonnie, but those weren't really scary. So in classic FNAF faction, if you want something to be scarier, you just throw Nightmare in front of it, and then boom, you have an unholy abomination that will eat your soul and devour your balls. Nevertheless, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie looks exactly how you'd expect a Nightmare version of Glamrock Bonnie to look, with shoulder pads. That's the scariest part. And at 6, Nightmare Toy Bonnie. I thought that the Nightmare versions couldn't get any worse, yet here we are. I remember someone commenting on the fan versions of Chica list saying that it was more like a fan versions of Toy Chica list, but the toy animatronics are just another version of the original, so it wasn't a different list. This is a monstrosity that needs to be banished to the depths of hell and then sent by Satan from hell to like the empty because he doesn't want to deal with it. I would understand why. Like, looking this thing up, I didn't expect to be as frightened as I was, but holy ever-loving crap, this shocked me. The toy aesthetic, again, just seems to make these versions worse. I don't know what it is. It's just like the toy animatronics as nightmares just make the absolute scariest versions of the characters. I don't get it. Like, if you have any theories as to why this is a thing, like maybe like a psychological or something, I don't know, leave it in the comments. Halfway through into number 5, Nightmare entered. The beauty of Nightmare versions of animatronics is that they can really be anything. There are plenty of directions to go because everyone will consider different things to be nightmare fuel. Some are very clearly in the style of other Nightmare animatronics, you know, lots of sharp teeth, stomach mouths. Some are spider-like versions that are hunched over and wider than they are long. Some have more limbs or are combined with other animatronics like Baby or Funtime Foxy to create a unique nightmare appearance. You can lean more into the clown aesthetic, or you go a million miles north and do something that nobody else has done, but that's just nightmares. That's what makes this kind of thing fun. And in doing so, you make something that not even Scott himself would have thought of. And isn't that kind of beautiful? Even if all these versions are making my currently blue pants brown, it's kind of causing me to black out a little bit. And 4, Twisted Nightmare. The Twisted animatronics are probably the most horrific animatronics ever described. These buggers are disgusting and horrific and are only approachable when using illusion discs to make themselves look presentable. I get that. Combine that with Nightmare, who is the scariest nightmare animatronic from the games, and oh my lord, you have one hell beast. Twisted Nightmare is everything you want to avoid when creating something for kids. I can hardly put it into words, honestly. Like, I'm glad that there's pictures that can be shown, because I honestly don't know how to go about describing this. If Hell's Gates had opened and released the entirety of FNAF lore into real life, and then the joy of creation animatronics emerged, including not just the ones from the game, but literally every other animatronic from the series in an ignited form, and then they all merged and became Twisted, that's half of how this demonic monstrosity would have been created. It's wrong, I feel deceived, I feel sharp objects being stabbed into my flesh. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Buff entered. Okay, I looked this up as a joke because Buff Helpy, and it turned out to be a thing, and that makes me upset. This can either be entered with just more endoskeleton stuff, like wires, tubes, tentacles, I don't know what to call it, but like that metallic stuff on his insides that makes him look more muscular, or it could just be adding more shell onto him and then giving him a speed up. That's the more popular one, unfortunately. And then there's the version that gives him a skin tone, and that's just messed up. Why is this a thing? Why did someone subject me to this? Because now you all have to see it. It's just, I don't know what else to say. It's nightmare fuel. It's at least as much nightmare fuel as Buff Helpy, okay, and you know that. I prefer Buff Helpy to this. At least Helpy is nice and he doesn't want to kill you and then shove himself inside you. That sounds weird, but you know what, I'm rolling with it. Helpy just wants to jump in balls. In a ball pit, okay? Buff Enter just makes me feel uncomfortable. It's like that one time I went to the gym all over again. And yes, I went to a gym once. Thank you. Penultimately, in at number 2, Diner entered. Michael Afton. The boy who lived, come to die. I'm not even making a joke. This just looks like if Ennard were Voldemort and watched one too many like makeup tutorials on YouTube. And like when you see it, you'll absolutely agree. This is like the beauty YouTuber of animatronics. If James Charles, Jeffree Star, Tati Westbrook, and Nikki Tutorials had a love child and then killed it with extreme agony so that it could then possess an animatronic and then give itself a makeover, that's what this is. With all their combined genetics and lack of eyebrows, this could actually happen. This is the face of my nightmares. This is the one who was truly behind Dramageddon. And if none of you understand that, this number is truly lost. But you know what? I guarantee 1000% that what I'm saying is perfectly accurate, even if you don't understand it. I had multiple sources. The 2 women who sit next to me verified this. I am right on this. And finally, in at number 1, Bread Bear. Oh boy. Bread Bear is an animatronic coming from the Day Shift at Freddy series, who was created by Dave by modifying a Fredbear suit. The character appears in Day Shift at Freddy's 1, 2, and 3. Fredbear's appearance is oddly similar to Fredbear, albeit wider. He is a golden colored bear animatronic wearing a purple top hat and bow tie, 2 black and white buttons on his chest, and his gray metallic eyes. Thicker arms and legs, a squarish brown nose, small brown pupils, small white teeth, round ears with the insides colored lighter shades as you know they typically would be, and a very circular shaped stomach with like brownish shades. He's also ripped around his feet and like joints and I don't know. Bread Bear also appears for real when Dave modifies an empty Fredbear suit and then unleashes it during the Sting operation on Friday, in which, depending on which route you take, it either attempts to kill Jack, it dies, or destroys the pizzeria that sets itself on fire. Because of course it does, we love that. No FNAF game is complete without a fire at the end, right? And it's at Garvey, a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer. He stopped being human long ago. That's how Garvey is described in the extras of Dormitibus, the game from which he hails. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist to Dormitibus, and as a human, he was a man who murdered the missing children, and later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and was burnt to a permanent death in the Fazbear Frights fire. If only the real Afton could have taken that same route. Garvey is a more gory version of Springtrap from FNAF 3, however, it is not William Afton, as this game was released before that name reveal, even before FNAF 4. Springtrap, but with hardly any exosuit or animatronic casing, whatever you want to call it. Garvey crawls on all fours and uses his left hand as a foot and his left foot as a hand, like some form of demon monkey from hell that Satan didn't sanction the creation of. Just look at this thing and tell me that it shouldn't be on this list, okay? If you do, you'll actually be lying, and that will make Garvey just want you more. That's a face that not even furries could simp for. Come on. And at 9, Shadow Spring Bonnie. Shadow Spring Bonnie is one of the two primary antagonists of Final Nights 2. He's also one of the final animatronics in the game. Shadow Spring Bonnie resembles Springtrap, as to be expected when mentioning Springlock suits. Similar to Springtrap, he lacks the suit on his right feet and has the majority of his right ear missing. Overall, he has rips, but he's not really missing any limbs or parts overall, which is a stark contrast to the burnt animatronics from the first 4 nights of the game. His face glows white, which is noticeable when he is in the hallway, but it also gives him a more sinister appearance, and pushes the something supernatural idea that most Shadow animatronics have, like Shadow Bonnie from FNAF AR. Shadow Spring Bonnie takes the role of Burnt Freddy and Burnt Foxy on Night 5, and is very fast, so the player must seal the vent quickly, or else they'll get jump scared. He may also appear in the hallway, but if he does, never use your flashlight or you will get insta-killed, and you should inspect his face when he appears there. If he's twitching, close the door. A rattling sound will let you know when he's left. The fact that you actually need to look at his face to see if you're in danger is horrifying, especially when most of what you need to do in this game relies on fast reflexes. You having to sit there and process something, especially for me, who processes something at the speed of a snail, that's gonna be rough. And at 7, Fred Trap. To be honest, I searched this up just for the hell of it, and there are actually Fredbear versions of Springtrap. Fred Trap is exactly what you'd expect. Springtrap's look on a yellow Freddy animatronic. The designs are actually really well made, and honestly are weirder than normal Springtrap to me. I guess bears in this case are weirder than bunnies, or I guess we've grown up with Springtrap, but I think that Scott made William use the Spring Bonnie suit because of how scared Scott himself was of Bonnie, but that could just be idle speculation. There are also even more rundown versions and even scrap versions of Fred Trap, which are actually haunting and less weird, but still, either way, it would still be William inside the suit and being kept alive by the spirit of a dead kid, and yeah, that's weird enough in normal FNAF, so here you go. And it's 6, Endo Baby. No, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about this thing. While Baby may not be the scariest animatronic, at least they aren't whatever the Rocky Horror Picture Show bullshit this is. Removing the animatronic casing from Baby just makes the character bone-chilling. And not even in a scary way, in a really uncomfortable way. Why does it need so much interior if it's an animatronic? Just make a normal endoskeleton with a containment chamber and a grabby arm thing. You don't need all these extra embellishments and cords. I get that they have to fit the technology in there, but this is a universe with discs that can change what you see based on sound. They made the technological reality stone, but can't make her inflate balloons using a normal endoskeleton? Actually, now that I think about it, that might actually just be worse. Still, why the hell would you do this in any capacity, okay? Just leave her casing on. Undress it with your eyes like normal people do. Normal. Halfway through at number 5, Havoc Puppet. Havoc Puppet is responsible for the creation of every animatronic in Dormitibus, a FNAF 3 fan game, with the exception of one. Havoc Puppet is formed by a cracked and distorted version of the puppet's original mask, which is missing its lower half. And the head has a small hole above the place its mouth would be, and then 2 white pinprick pupils inside empty sockets with presumably pitch black everything else. The lower missing half of the main mask actually features 7 black tentacle-like extensions, 3 at the back and 4 at the front. The side 2 are used as legs, while the other 2 front ones are presumably like arms, and then the back 3 tentacles seem to be like tails. I don't get it. She also has a crack on the top of her head. Okay, this thing is wrong. It looks like a giant messed up spider, and we know how I feel about spiders. I hate them, but this is still weird as hell, even for a puppet. In at 4, Fusion Baby. While I applaud the creativity here, these fusions of Baby with other Funtime animatronics are just frickin' weird. Whether it be putting Funtime Foxy's color scheme and ears on Baby, or just plopping Funtime Freddy's head on her body, the horror that is the fusion concept shakes me to my core. And honestly, even thinking about it, I want to stop recording this video. It's one of those things where like I hate it and it irks me in the worst way, but I still can't look away. Like when you want to watch something that you hate to see if you can handle it and you can't. Like that's me with these fusions. It's like a video of a spider, okay? I'm intrigued, but also I'm disgusted, so I'm avoiding it. Like, what the hell? Why do these work so well? Penultimately, into number 2, Reaper Puppet. If you didn't know, the Reaper Puppet was the first fan animatronic ever featured on this channel in the top 10 scary FNAF animatronics list around like a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. The first FNAF video by me on this channel, by the way, was from January 29th, 2020. Can you believe that? It's actually been over 2 years. And the video I'm talking about came out about a month later, on February 24th, 2020. So yeah, it's been over 2 years. So I have a long history with this character. The Reaper Puppet, along with Shadow Bonnie and the brother from Final Nights 1, are the only animatronics in the entire Final Night series to start off a night outside. Reaper Puppet also appears to be a counterpart to the original series Puppet, though it is only the Reaper Puppet's head that is similar to the core series. The rest of its body is a dark shade of black. It has long stretching arms and sharp fingers at the hands like the Grim Reaper, and Reaper Puppet has multiple tentacle-like legs, which kind of gives me PTSD because of the blob. Reaper Puppet can easily be mistaken for a tree, as its legs look like roots and its shoulders look like branches, but the thing is so creepy that I included it on a list that shouldn't have had fan animatronics on it, okay? But I was incredibly creeped out and I felt compelled to make it a thing, mostly because I wanted to use it for the thumbnail, okay? Like how kids in Fazbear Frights are drawn to the restaurants, I'm drawn to the Reaper Puppet. And finally, in at number 1, Actual Nightmares. From a series of Reddit posts from a now deleted user called FNAF 4, but it's actually something you would see in a nightmare. These horrific half-wits are exactly what I would genuinely expect to see in a nightmare. Like, why would you do that to poor mommy Chica? This was the thumbnail image I used for the iconic Scary FNAF Creepypastas video on Top 10 Gaming Elite, the 8th video released on that channel at this point, and I think it's still the most popular video on that channel. But it really makes me wonder why I didn't use that in a video at any point before this. Like, this is the first time I'm actually talking about these characters, which is kind of absolutely crazy. And I used Freddy for the scariest fan animatronics you will ever see video, which only made me want to talk about it more. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've used all 3 in thumbnails before. I used Bonnie for like a Bonnie Theories video as well, like damn. For some reason, the author didn't want to or didn't end up making a Nightmare Fredbear or Foxy in these styles, so I guess that this was probably enough for them. And honestly, I think it was enough for the internet because I'm like, damn, okay, these things are hella creepy. Even worse than the Reaper or Havoc Puppet. That's right, I said it. Havoc Puppet wasn't even on this list, but still. And at 7, Am I Real? Am I Real, also known as Cake Bear, is presumably the primary and most recurring antagonist in Dormitibus. Am I Real has 2 different forms. His first form is Cake Bear. Cake Bear's design originated from the Save Him minigame in FNAF 2, where he delivered cake to children while a child is killed outside. He is also the predecessor to both Fredbear and Freddy Fazbear. Cake Bear is a brown bear animatronic that also acts as a spring-lock suit that appears in most of the main nights. Although they look slightly similar, the only similarities that he really has to Freddy Fazbear is that they both possess a top hat. They're also brown, have blue eyes, and are a bear. That's it. Am I Real's second form is a form that resembles Springtrap. This form has a green color much like Springtrap and contains human remains. His right eye socket has gotten bigger on the side and a big hole can be seen on the right side of his head. His top hat has received some withering on it as well. His lower jaw is slanted and worn down, no longer circular like Cake Bear's, and he has a sizable hole in the right side of his torso as well, revealing organs. Yep, that's right, that's the kind of game this is. Rips and tears cover his arms, revealing more and more human remains, and he appears to be missing at least one finger on his right hand for whatever reason, and is absolutely just terrifying to look at. And of course, 4 out of 10 of these are going to be from Dormitibus, okay? Did you watch the whole Dormitibus animatronics lists from a while ago? Those are nuts, okay? Halfway through into number 5, Slasher Fredbear. Slasher Fredbear by DeviantArt user PlayStation Jedi is an unholy abomination that must be stopped. I've talked about the Slasher animatronics before, particularly in the Bonnie animatronic versions list. However, Slasher Fredbear is so much worse. He may not have a shotgun axe guitar, but oh my god. Let me read the description of this animatronic in the words of PlayStation Jedi himself, so you can see what the creator thinks about him. Quote, "The largest and strongest of all the Slasher animatronics, Slasher Fredbear is an unstoppable force with enhanced strength and durability. Fredbear is capable of smashing through walls, withstanding lots of punishment, and grabbing heavy objects and throwing them across the room. While Fredbear uses his great strength to pick up and rip people in half, if he needs a quick kill, he can extend a blade mounted to his wrist and cut through people like butter. Or, if he needs a ranged attack, he can use his 2 wrist-mounted LMG guns. Fredbear can switch between these weapons on the fly, either using 2 LMGs or 2 blades or 1 on each wrist." What the hell, man? LMG standing for light machine gun. Kelly, by the way. Jesus ever-loving Christ. This will actually make me cry myself to sleep. Not to mention the spikes covering his body or the incredible amount of blood soaking it. And at 4, Golden Call. As a human when alive, Golden Call's name was Kyle. However, now he is a Springlock victim stuck inside a Golden Freddy Springlock suit. Golden Call has a typical rundown Springlock suit vibe, similar to Springtrap. However, this time it's even more gruesome. His left ear is bent, he has bugs coming out of basically every hole in his body, human eyes are hanging out of the animatronic's eye sockets, he is missing exosuit on his right foot, and the character is holding a flesh-colored, at least flesh-colored, it might even be flesh made phone in his right hand that stays stuck to his head via more flesh and blood strands connecting to the side of his head. Yeah. Dude, this is horrifying. This is a monstrosity. And looking at his age on the wiki, Kyle was only 5 years old when he got Springlock, which is absolutely nuts and just like flat out horrible. It's so unfortunate. He was supposed to be the next best Fortnite player. He killed Ninja and Tfue. That's a joke for you long-term subs right there. Although, if you stuck around after those videos, I'd be surprised. Getting close to the end in number 3, Havoc Freddy. What the f is this thing? Like, this thing has to be the most confusing form of Freddy that we have ever seen in any version of the game. St. Patty's Day Freddy, normal. Icicle Freddy, normal. What the hell is this? He looks like an even more canine version of Mangle with Foxy's arm in his mouth, holding a sign that says, "I look like a toaster with a slice of bread." And that's not a joke. I'm actually serious. He's holding an arm that is holding a sign that says that it looks like a toaster with a slice of bread. What? If the sheer confusion isn't enough to put you off, it's also missing an eye, even though it has another head attached to it that it looks like the eyes were torn out of that too. Go find those eyes, my dude! Can you tell that this series of games is driving me crazy? Like, at this point, we've done more FNAF videos than I feel like anyone else on YouTube. There is over 450 FNAF videos in the playlist, and I've done the majority of them. I have done over a year's worth of FNAF videos. Penultimately, into number 2, Blank. The Blank animatronic from Five Nights at Candy's and Five Nights at Candy's Remastered is actually very unique in concept, no doubt being inspired by Mangle, I think, though. He is a drawing attraction that is meant for children to write and draw wherever they want on his body. Over time, the animatronic was obviously withered down, and the withered version from the second game is where we'll be focusing for this number. Withered Blank is the most withered out of any of the animatronics. All of his suit parts seem to be damaged in one way or another. A large part of the left side of his head is gone, exposing his endoskeleton. His left forearm and right upper arm are missing their exoskeletons, and while his right forearm is completely gone, all suit parts below his knees are also gone, and there are 2 holes in his torso. One of the holes exposes an endoskeleton. His texture isn't even white anymore, rather more of a gray color, like the shirt you forgot to wash that just isn't the same anymore. Unless you use today's sponsor, I'm just kidding, we're not sponsored. Blank also can be seen unwithered in the first minigame, but he appears to be the same as he was in the first game, so yeah. But in Night night 6 of the second minigame, the player also can see Blank's original appearance, which is actually kind of cool. It's a cool concept. And finally, in at number 1, Withered Glitch Trap. You can fight me all you want about my opinions on Springtrap, but there is no way that you can fight me on the fact that Glitch Trap isn't an animatronic. Firstly, he's just game code with no real world equivalent aside from William Afton and I guess technically now Burntrap and Vanny. Secondly, he was literally just a suit. You can tell by the fabric, the different design to the Bonnie we all know and love, kind of, and the stitching around his joints. But this version of Glitch Trap, specifically this one, known as Withered Glitch Trap by Shadow Foxy on Amino, is designed to be an animatronic, therefore it counts for this list. This thing is terrifying. Like, I've always had a soft spot for Glitch Trap. I hate this thing because like it gives me creepy bear vibes, if you know what I mean, like the old uncle. You know, it's an old meme, but it checks out. Anyway, I hate these kinds of things. And the way that Glitch Trap just like stands there and waves and then slowly gets closer to you as the player while you're slowly picking up these the tapes, you're also playing as a child in that game, indicated by your height when you load up the game. It doesn't sit right with me, hence why I avoid picking up the tapes, because I know that it's going to summon him. Now, with all of that said and done, this version is actually worse. The actual withered appearance along with the desaturation of the costume and the exposed endoskeleton is just, it's too much for me, and I can't do this anymore. I'm done!